Rick, it's good to see you.
Hey, good morning, Keith. Great to see you, man. Welcome home.
Thanks, Rick. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. So the title of this episode is going to be inspired by coming back home. Uh,
All right.
so yeah, the title is going back home. And I guess I have two homes coming back. So yeah, I had a great trip, man. Anything specifically you want to know about the trip?
Yeah, one of the things that I'm always curious about with myself when I go back to a place that I used to live is number one, how are the people? Do my family members and my old friends still treat me the same way? Do I notice changes in them? If so, what accounts for those changes? And how was it that we were able to reconnect after so many years? It's sort of like right back where you were in the old days. And what's that mechanism? How does that happen with them and it doesn't happen with other people? Did you have that experience?
Yeah, I had a great experience, and my experiences of going back home have gotten better and better each time. And what has made it better is I'm better. I don't make I make a problem out of being back home anymore. As I mentioned to you before in a lot of conversations we had, that I was really at the effect of my mind, my likes and my dislikes, my judgment. And so I was pretty harsh in terms of my judgment, or my mind was pretty harsh in terms of judgment about my childhood, the people that were in my life, some of who raised me and some who I crossed paths with. And I just judged everybody, man. I judged my brother for making the choices he made that led to, a pretty, rough life experience in and out of, situations with the legal system, in and out of jobs. And he just kind of took it in stride. But every time that I learned about something that was happening with him, I found a way to want to give him advice about getting his life back together. When it came to my stepfather, I've shared a lot about what that experience was growing up with him and his journey with alcoholism and abuse in the household. And so every time I would go back to Tennessee before the practice, I would carry that with me, of just those thoughts. And I never saw him when I would go back for the most part as an adult. But when I got there, that was one of the first things I thought about. And then I thought about about the South, where I'm from in Tennessee, what it's like to grow up. But something happened probably about, I don't know, Rick, maybe about 15 years ago when I went back. I had gone through, I hadn't started to practice quite yet, but I had gone through this personal, transformation, this journey, and which I stopped bothering myself, allowing my mind to bother me about judging other people. So I remember one experience distinctly that I was taking my brother to dinner. We were going to dinner, and he was telling me about his most recent legal situation, and there have been many, and about how he needed money. And I remember listening to him without any judgment about a situation, no questions about how you let yourself get into this, putting stipulations around loaning him money. I just let him share, and we had the best time. I was laughing about how he got himself into this, most recent caper. And it was different. And I used that every step of the way doing that experience, and nothing bothered me. I had the best time. I didn't complain about the weather, the humidity, or the bugs, which we don't have a lot of in Tennessee, the mosquitoes and things like that. I didn't do any of that, which I'd done in the past. And I just saw a friend everywhere I went. And so I've had two trips since that one, and every time it just gets better and better. One of the things that stood out about the previous trip was of just being grateful, to my mom. In the past, when I would go back to Tennessee, the person who I grew up to be the closest with was a cousin. So I spent 90% of my time with my cousin, and didn't spend a whole lot of times visiting my mom. But I had the most amazing mom that she never ever guilted me or complained about how much time I spent with her. Whatever time I spent with her, she just was grateful for it. Just saw it as just quality time. This is an amazing example for me. And so, in this most recent time, what I was struck with was I just really felt compelled to spend all my time at her house. And when I got there that night, got there very late, Rick, after midnight, arriving in Tennessee, and she was there to greet me at the door, as if she'd been waiting like for Santa, to come home. And she greeted me, and we went downstairs because she has like a little apartment downstairs, and that's where I was staying. And she had spent the last 3 or 4 weeks making it ready for me. And so, the bed was there, there was half of the bed was turned down for me to go to sleep. There was food in the refrigerator, there was because it's like a downstairs apartment. And, the towels, and she took the time to walk me through everything that was there to make my stay comfortable. And I remember, going to bed, and I remember my mind wanting to say something about, um, you know, the ventilation, say something about the bed and whether and its firmness or softness, about the pillows. And every time my mind would start to say the bed, I was like, I mean, I would just stop it every time it was about to complain about something. The pillow, it was like this. And I was like, we're not doing that. We are going to just bask in gratitude for everything that this woman has done to make your stay amazing. And that's how I spent the first night and every night and day since while I was there. Everything that happened, it didn't matter if we had a schedule, didn't matter what the schedule was. Whatever it turned out to be, it was perfect. People came and visited. Some said they would come and visit and weren't able to. That was cool too. Like it was just a beautiful experience, Rick, while I was there. And I didn't complain about the roads. Arizona, they do a great job on the roads here that we drive on. In Tennessee, the attention is spent elsewhere. And
Mhm.
I didn't make that a problem, and it was just a beautiful experience. I didn't judge my cousins on what they ate. I didn't judge people saying, "Hey, I want to work out with you." But when the alarm clock went off, I was at the gym by myself. That was cool too. I didn't start questioning anybody's commitment or anything, man. It was beautiful. And the reason it was beautiful because I was beautiful inside.
Man, that's gorgeous. That's a really wonderful story, Keith. Thank you. I think what I heard mostly coming out of that was the gratitude and the non-judging, and
Yeah.
how when we're open-hearted and we don't have an opinion about things, we don't have expectations that can be thwarted or somehow made not up to snuff because of our preconditions of what we require. Once we get past that and we open our hearts, life is so much easier, don't you think?
Yeah, Rick, it is. It makes you aware of all the possibilities that are available to you in that moment. And what was in the love and gratitude that I felt, that had always been there on all the visits that I made to Tennessee, except I was closed. I was limited by my mind and, you know, the interpretations about past experiences, so I couldn't see beyond those things.
Mm.
And once I started to really work on myself in earnest and with consistency, it all became, available to me. And so that's how I spent the whole time there. I mean, everything was just perfect. I mean, everything. I can't think of anything. My mind would say, well, it wasn't perfect, but yeah, it was. It was all great. And so I didn't lean on my practice a lot in terms of, having to work through things that bothered my mind and my heart. That didn't happen, man. I've been at this for a long time, Rick, as you know, in terms of the practice. And so now it's becoming, in a lot of cases, effortless. And I'm grateful for that. I remember a time going back home was really effortful, but that has changed. I'm on the other side of that, and it's a great place to be. So I love going back home, but what I found is I feel like I'm home everywhere, man, because of the work that I do inside.
Exactly right. That's exactly the place I think we all strive to be. And it's such a better place. It's such
Yeah.
a better place than fighting with how you want things to be instead of how they really are, and being grateful for what you have and what you experience. The idea that you have to have opinions we need to look at that a little closer, because the opinions get in the way of what's really important, which is a connection to self and connection to others that's on a different level. And as you said, you've been at this a long time. So, now, Keith, it's like your default. You
It
know,
is.
can you imagine for people that haven't experienced what you've just experienced, how wonderful that would be to relieve that anxiety and that worry and that that discontent, that inner discontent that comes from having all the expectations of how things have to be for them to be happy. If you can get past that, so that the default is what you experienced when you went back to Tennessee, open-heartedness, non-judging, gratitude. Man, what a wonderful life. What a difference.
It's a wonderful life, man. And I've experienced that all week long. And, in the past too, one of the things I'll just end with this is that, my one of my defaults is I appreciate routine. I have a routine. I embrace structure. And so when I go to Tennessee, it's less of that, because I am really just going with the flow with everyone else. And have a tendency, if I'm not mindful, to want to get back to my routine. Like I can't wait to get back to Arizona, my normal routine. This is the time I go to bed. This time I get up. This is what my day is going to look like. And I didn't even have that going on, and which is great. People often ask me whenever I have a trip coming up or something, a noteworthy event. They often ask me, "Are you excited about your trip coming up?" I'm like, Not really, I'm just I'm excited in this moment, so no more excited about the trip as I am about this moment. I've really learned how to and practice being in the present moment. Wherever I am is just right. It is just right. And man, you know how beautiful that is, Rick, to move through life unconditionally to where you don't need to be somewhere to experience something. Dude, that's a beautiful place. When people say, man, I need to go somewhere to find myself. What are you talking about? You're right here. Like you don't need to go anywhere to find yourself. Like you're right here. And if you go somewhere else, if you're bothered, that's going there too. I remember I had this great trip to Europe planned, but I wasn't right inside. I had a miserable trip in Europe. So, I mean, Rick, if you're a problem, you're a problem. I mean, period. No matter where you are. So, man, I love you, man. Thank you for asking about, going back home to Memphis. I appreciate it.
And thanks for those great, great words. That's very instructive for all of us. I really appreciate it. Every time I listen to you, I'm just reinvigorated with the idea of how far we've both come in our lives and how much more at peace we are with not only one another, but the world and all of the strife that hits all of us all the time. And it's just a marvelous thing to see, Keith. I love you. Congratulations on your path, man.
All right. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate it. I love you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.